Okay, I want you to picture something really specific. It's late afternoon, maybe early evening.
Mm-hmm.
The sun is starting to dip. The heat of the day is finally breaking.
Yeah.
And you're a kid again. You're watching your parents, or I don't know, maybe your grandparents.
Right.
And they just disappear. They vanish down to the bottom of the garden.
Yeah.
They're gone for what feels like hours. And when they finally come back, they look like they've been through a war, but like a good war.
Oh, yeah. It's a very distinct physical state, isn't it?
It is. It's not gym tired. It's totally different. They are covered in dirt. There's soil under their fingernails, maybe a smear of mud on their forehead. They're sweaty.
Right.
But they are grinning, just absolutely beaming.
Yeah.
And in their hands, they're clutching this bundle of dirty Paris, or maybe a handful of asparagus spears that still have...
Still clinging to them, yeah.
Exactly, still clinging to them.
That image, I think it triggers something really primal in us. It's that hunter-gatherer instinct being satisfied, even if you're just, gathering from a raised bed in the suburbs.
Exactly. And that specific feeling, that mix of exhaustion and triumph, that's what the source material we are covering today captures so perfectly.
Oh, I agree.
We are doing a deep dive into the Kitchen Garden Cookbook, which is edited by Caroline Bretherton. And I have to say, the introduction to this book it grabbed me immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Because she tells this story of being a kid and crawling like commando style under the anti-squirrel netting to steal strawberries.
Which, that resonates with anyone who has ever tried to grow anything, right? There's always a battle with the wildlife. It's you versus the squirrels or you versus the slugs.
Totally.
But you're right, that introduction, it really sets the stage for what this book is all about. It's not just some, agricultural manual. It's not just a list of fertilizer ratios. It's really about the philosophy of food.
It's the romance of the patch.
It is the romance, but Bretherton grounds it in something very, very tangible. She talks about the unique satisfaction of the evening water.
Oh, I love that phrase.
Yeah, you go out, the day is done, all that cortisol from the workday's kind of fading, and you're just standing there with a hose watering these plants that you nurtured from a tiny little seed. It's meditative.
It's the transition point, isn't it, between the stress of the day and the meal of the night?
Precisely. And then you get the payoff. Eating food that is, local, chemical-free, and this is the crucial part, practically free.
Practically free is my absolute favorite price point. But let's be honest, today isn't just about the gardening part. We aren't going to just talk about soil pH.
No.
We are here for the eating. We are taking a whole stack of recipes and techniques from this book, and we are going to unpack how to actually respect the season. And the season we are obsessing over today is spring.
The first flush, the waking up of the earth.
The first flush.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about the heavy hitters of the vegetable world. Asparagus, peas, fava beans, Swiss chard, cauliflower, and spinach. And here's the mission for this deep dive. We're going to go vegetable by vegetable.
Right.
We'll tell you exactly when to pick them, because apparently most of us wait way too long how to store them so they don't turn into that sad, limp mush in your fridge.
We've all been there.
And then, most importantly, how to cook them.
And that how to cook part is where we're going to spend a lot of time, because the recipes in this book, they're really designed to make the vegetable the star of the show. It's not a side dish to a steak. It is the main event.
So let's dive right in with what I call the king of spring, asparagus.
A fitting title. It really is the herald of the new growing season.
I feel like asparagus is one of those vegetables where people either get really intimidated by the harvest or they get greedy,
How do you mean greedy?
Well, I walk through the grocery store and I see these massive, thick spears, the jumbo ones, and they sell them for a premium price. But then I see the pencil-thin ones right next to them. So when we're in the garden, or even just at the farmer's market, what are we actually looking for? When is it ready?
It's actually simpler than you might think, but there is a golden rule. The source material calls it the index finger rule.
Okay, the index finger rule. I like it.
So you want to pick the spears when they are about 6 inches or, say, 15 centimeters high. That's the first part.
6 inches. Got it.
But the thickness is the real quality indicator. They should be no thicker than your index finger.
No thicker than my index finger. So if it looks like a tree trunk, you've waited too long.
You've waited too long.
Is Bretherton saying those jumbo spears are, objectively worse? Or is this just a preference thing?
No, it's a biology thing. It's pure science. Think about what an asparagus spear actually is. It's a shoot, right? It is the plant trying to send up a fern so it can photosynthesize. As that spear widens and gets older, the plant begins laying down something called lignin.
Lignin. What's that?
Lignin is this complex organic polymer. It's the stuff that makes wood hard. It's the structural fiber that has to support the weight of that future fern.
So when you see those massive, thick spears,
The plant has already started building its tree trunk.
so you're eating wood.
Essentially, I mean, once that lignin sets in, no amount of boiling or steaming is going to make it truly tender. You're fighting the basic biology of the plant.
Wow. Okay, so you want to catch it before that structural hardening happens.
Exactly. Harvest young.
Okay, so technique. I have to admit, I'm a snapper. I grab the spear and I just snap it until it breaks. I've always been told that it naturally breaks right where the woody part ends. But Bretherton seems to frown on that.
She does, yeah. The snap method is actually pretty controversial in gardening circles.
Really? I thought that was the standard.
Well, the argument against it is that you often lose perfectly good edible stalk. Or you can kind of shatter the fibers and you create this ragged end that cooks unevenly.
Oh, okay.
So she advocates for the knife cut. Surgical precision.
Surgical precision. I like that.
Exactly. You want to use a sharp knife and cut just below the soil surface.
Below the surface. Wait, doesn't that damage the crown of the plant?
If you're careful, no. It actually protects the remaining stump from drying out in the wind because it's covered by soil. But this whole harvest moment, it brings us to maybe the most critical part of the asparagus section, which is what the book calls the index of freshness.
The ticking clock.
It is a full-on metabolic sprint. Asparagus has a remarkably high respiration rate after you harvest it.
What does that mean, respiration? Like it's breathing?
In a way, yeah. It is frantically burning up its own natural sugars and its own water content just to stay alive. That's why the texture changes so incredibly fast. An asparagus spear loses a huge percentage of its natural sugar within the first 24 hours of being cut.
That explains so much. That explains why the book is so obsessive about the storage trick. I usually just, throw the rubber-banded bunch in the crisper drawer, and 3 days later, it's limp. It's just sad.
And that's a storage failure, not a vegetable failure.
Right.
Because of that high respiration and water loss, you have to treat asparagus like a cut flower. That's the mental model you need to have.
Like a bouquet of roses.
Exactly. You wouldn't just throw a bouquet of roses in the crisper drawer without water, would you?
No, of course not. So what's the trick? The damp towel trick.
Yes. You wrap the stem, just the cut ends, in damp paper towels. This provides a constant moisture source for the plant to draw from. Then you put the whole thing in a plastic bag to create a little humid environment, and you stick it in the fridge.
And that actually works. That buys you time.
It buys you up to 3 days of real crispness, which, in asparagus time, is basically an eternity. It slows down that whole metabolic burn.
That is a genuine game changer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk cooking. Because I grew up with steamed asparagus. That was it. Maybe a little butter if we were feeling crazy.
Right.
But this book suggests that we might be missing out if we only steam.
Oh, definitely. Bretherton offers a sort of dichotomy here. You have the path of purity, which is steaming, and you have the path of aggression, which is grilling.
Yeah.
She seems to lean toward the latter.
Why? Is it just about getting those cool grill marks?
No, it fundamentally changes the chemistry of the flavor. When you steam, you're retaining that grassy, delicate chlorophyll flavor. It's very green.
Sure.
But when you grill, and she means specifically char grilling on a ridged cast iron pan, you're triggering the Maillard reaction.
Which gives us that savory brown flavor.
Right, because as we just mentioned, young asparagus has a surprisingly high natural sugar content. So when you hit that with high dry heat, those sugars caramelize. You aren't just heating the vegetable, you are changing its entire chemical flavor profile. Bretherton calls the result meatier.
Meatier, I like that.
It has a depth and a savoriness that steaming just can't even get close to.
And to pair with that meatiness, she suggests a total classic, asparagus with hollandaise. Now, hollandaise intimidates people. It intimidates me. It's one of the French mother sauces, right? It just feels like something you're going to break and ruin.
What is an emulsion which is inherently unstable? I mean, you're trying to force fat and water to mix, which they don't want to do.
Right.
But Bretherton's approach here is really interesting because she focuses on the reduction first. She has you simmer white wine vinegar in a pan until it reduces by about half.
Wait, reducing the vinegar first. I usually just see recipes that say, add a squeeze of lemon.
Right.
Why go to the trouble of reducing vinegar?
It's all about concentrating the acid and the flavor without adding too much liquid volume. If you just add raw vinegar, you're adding a lot of water. By reducing it, you get this punchy, synergistic acid syrup. Then you whisk in the egg yolks, and then finally you drizzle in the melted butter.
And why is that acid so important?
Because you desperately need it to cut through all that fat. You have egg yolks and you have butter. That is a fat bomb.
It is.
If you don't have that sharp, concentrated, reduced vinegar, the sauce is just flabby. It's just creamy goop. You need that acid to stand up to the smoke and char of the grilled asparagus.
Now, I do have to flag something here, because the source material has this big, bold warning box.
Right, the safety note.
Yeah, the USDA warning about using raw or lightly cooked eggs. Salmonella is a real thing. So if you're pregnant or elderly or have a compromised immune system, you might want to skip the raw egg yolk route on this one.
That's a very important piece of context. But if you are skipping the eggs, the book has a second grilling option that is just as good, and honestly, maybe even a little punchier.
Okay.
Char grilled asparagus with olive oil and cheese.
This sounds way more my speed for a weeknight.
It's incredibly simple, but the key is that it relies on really high-quality ingredients. You grill the asparagus the same way, get that beautiful char, but instead of a heavy cream sauce, you just drizzle it with a good balsamic vinegar or a balsamic glaze. And then, this is the kicker, you shave hard sheep's milk cheese or Parmesan right over the top.
Ooh, that salty, sharp cheese against the sweet balsamic.
Exactly. It's a masterclass in flavor balancing. You have the bitterness from the char, the sweetness from the balsamic, and then the umami and salt from the cheese. It's so much more aggressive than the hollandaise, but in a really, really good way.
Hey, now, we have to talk about the ghost in the room.
The ghost.
The white variant. The book has a recipe for white asparagus. I've seen this stuff in jars, and it's usually really mushy, but I didn't realize you could just grow it white. Is it a different species of plant?
No, it's the same plant, Asparagus officinalis, but it's grown using this very engineered process called forcing or blanching.
Forcing, that sounds pretty intense.
It just means you grow it in the dark. As the spears start to emerge from the ground, farmers mound soil up around them, or they cover the rows with these black plastic tunnels.
So they literally never see the sun.
Exactly. And without sunlight, photosynthesis can't happen. The plant doesn't produce chlorophyll, so it never turns green. It stays this kind of curly white.
So it's basically vampire asparagus.
In a manner of speaking, yes. But this changes the texture and flavor, too. The skin tends to be a bit thicker and more fibrous. You almost always have to peel white asparagus. But the inside is much, much milder and more delicate. It lacks that grassy green punch.
And because it's so delicate, I'm going to guess we aren't throwing this on the grill.
Correct. The book suggests steaming this variety upright in bundles. You want to treat it very gently. And the pairing for this one is a garlic and herb mayonnaise.
A homemade mayo.
Yes, but it's flavored with Dijon mustard, lemon juice, crushed garlic, parsley, and tarragon. And I really want to highlight the tarragon.
Tarragon.
Tarragon and asparagus are just best friends. It's a very classic French flavor combination. That slight anise licorice flavor of the tarragon just lifts the subtle earthiness of the asparagus perfectly. It's a beautiful match.
I love that.
Okay.
Let's move from side dishes to the main event. Can asparagus actually carry a whole meal?
According to this deep dive, absolutely. There are two main courses that really stand out. The first one is a pasta with asparagus and zucchini.
Pasta's always a win.
Yeah.
But putting zucchini in pasta, I don't know, it often just gets slimy and watery. What makes this one special?
It's the technique. You're not just sautéing the zucchini quickly for a minute or two. You're actually cooking it for about 10 minutes until it really softens and starts to break down. It almost becomes part of the sauce itself.
So you're making a veg-based sauce. You're not just adding chunks of veg.
Exactly. Then you add the asparagus, a little bit of white wine, some capers, and lemon zest.
Capers and lemon zest. So it's bright. It's got that synbizing to it.
It's incredibly fresh. It just sings of spring. And if you want it creamy, the book suggests adding a splash of cream at the end. But honestly, the vegetable base with that broken down zucchini is robust enough on its own.
And the second main course?
An asparagus quiche. But this is not your cafeteria quiche. This one uses a cream cheese base instead of just milk and cream.
Cream cheese? What cream cheese?
It adds density and a bit of tang. It gives the custard a much denser, richer texture that feels more substantial. It also uses fresh thyme and aged cheddar. And visually, this is where the art comes in. You arrange the blanched spears in a wheel pattern on top. It's a really elegant lunch.
I can just see it now.
Yeah.
A slice of that quiche, a nice glass of wine. Perfect. Okay, let's leave the king of spring and move on to something a little sweeter. Let's talk about peas.
Ah, the ticking clock of the garden.
You called asparagus a metabolic sprint, but you call peas a ticking clock. What's the difference? Why?
Because with peas, time is the absolute enemy of flavor. I mean, the source material is very, very clear on the science here. Peas, specifically garden peas, are seeds, right?
Right.
They are packed with energy for the future plant, and that energy is stored as sugar. But the moment you pick them, a chemical switch flips inside that pea.
What happens?
The plant realizes it has been severed. It goes into panic mode. Enzymes immediately start converting that delicious sugar into starch to preserve the energy in a more stable form.
So that's sweet pop.
It turns into a mealy, starchy little pellet within hours. That's why the fresh peas you buy at the supermarket are often so disappointing. They've been off the vine for days, the sugar is just gone, you have to eat them immediately. Pot to plate is the goal.
Okay, so harvest quickly. How do we pick them?
You should pick frequently to encourage the plant to keep producing more, and you pick from the bottom of the plant up those ripen first.
Now, this next recipe actually blew my mind. I usually shell the peas and I just throw the pods in the compost. It always feels wasteful, but the pods are so tough. But the book has a recipe for a pea soup with mint gremolata where you actually use the pods.
This is such a fantastic zero-waste concept, long before zero waste was a buzzword. It taps into that old peasant food tradition of using every single scrap of food. The pods have a tremendous amount of flavor, that same grassy sweetness as the peas.
But they're fibrous. You
Mhm.
can't eat garden pea pods unless they're like snap peas or something.
True. So the technique is really clever. You chop up the peas in the pods, you boil them with onions and potatoes until everything is complete mush. You are extracting every single molecule of flavor.
Okay.
And then, this is the crucial step, you puree the whole thing and then you pass it through a very fine sieve.
Ah, so the sieve acts as the gatekeeper.
Exactly. The sieve catches all the fiber skins and the tough cellulose strings, but it allows all that flavor-packed pulp and liquid to pass right through. You get a soup that tastes intensely of peas because you've used the entire vegetable.
And then you top it with a mint gremolata.
Yep. Parsley, mint, lemon zest, and garlic. The lemon zest is so critical here because a pea soup can be quite heavy and starchy. You need that bright citrus oil to lift the palate.
That is so smart.
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying that. Now, let's say I messed up. Let's say I went on vacation. I came back, and the peas on the vine are huge. They're monster peas. And I know they're going to be starchy. Is all hope lost?
Not at all. The book has a rescue mission for those exact peas. Spanish-style peas.
This sounds like a tapas situation.
It is, and it worked because it embraces the texture. You aren't trying to hide the starchiness, you're leaning into it. You use serrano ham, smoked paprika, tomato puree, and a bit of white wine.
Those are all really strong, aggressive flavor.
What's the whole point? If you use delicate little baby peas in this sauce, they'd get lost. They'd just turn into mush. But a big, starchy, mealy pea has the structural integrity to stand up to serrano ham and tomato. It adds texture to that rich, smoky sauce.
The big peas go to Spain. Where do the baby peas go?
They go to the salad bowl. There is a recipe for a feta and pea salad that is designed specifically for those tiny, sweet baby peas. You don't even cook them.
You eat them raw.
Raw. When they are that small and young, the skin is super tender, and they are essentially little bubbles of sugar water. Cooking them would just ruin that perfect texture. You toss them with watercress, spinach, and mint.
And the dressing?
A watercress and horseradish mayonnaise.
Horseradish. Wow, that's got a kick.
It provides the heat to contrast the extreme sweetness of the raw peas. It's a brilliant pairing, that pop of sugar and that hit of heat.
I'm loving the variety here.
Yeah.
We have one more pea recipe that really caught my eye. Warm pea pancakes.
This is a bit of a weekend brunch showstopper. You're essentially making a stiff paste out of the peas. You process them with mint, cream, and Parmesan cheese.
And then you fry them like little green pancakes.
Delicious green pancakes. The egg and the cream bind the pureed peas together so they hold their shape. And you serve them with poached eggs and, bringing it all full circle, some grilled asparagus on the side.
That sounds absolutely incredible. Okay, let's move on to section 3, the heavy lifters. We're talking fava beans and Swiss chard.
Fava beans or broad beans, depending on where you're from. This is where we separate the casual gardener from the truly devoted one.
Why do you say that?
Because fava beans are a labor of love. They're high maintenance.
I've heard about the double shell requirement. It sounds like a punishment.
It can definitely feel like it. Let's walk through the anatomy.
Oh.
So you harvest the pod, this big, thick, padded pod. You zip it open. Inside, the beans are nestled in this sort of white, cottony bedding.
Which looks pretty cozy.
It does. But the beans themselves are covered in this grayish, tough skin. If you eat them like that, especially the larger ones, that skin is bitter and really chewy. It just ruins the experience.
So you have to peel them.
You have to blanch them first, boil them for just 2 minutes, then you plunge them into ice water to stop the cooking.
And
Then you have to manually pop each individual bean out of that gray skin.
one by one.
One by one. It takes time. But I want to defend this process for a minute. In a world of instant gratification, there is something really valuable about sitting at the kitchen table, maybe with a glass of wine, just shelling beans. It forces you to slow down.
And is the payoff really worth it?
Absolutely. What you find inside that gray skin is this vibrant emerald green nugget. It's not like a pea and it's not like a lima bean. It's creamy, it's nutty, and it's just so alive. It's a completely different vegetable once you get that skin off.
Okay, so we've done the work. We have our beautiful bowl of emerald nuggets. What do we do with them?
Well, the book suggests a fava bean panzanella.
A twist on the classic Italian bread salad.
Yes, panzanella is traditionally made with tomatoes and stale bread. This version swaps out the tomatoes for the favas. You use toasted ciabatta, scallions, feta cheese, dill, and mint. You soak the bread in the olive oil and vinegar dressing so it gets soft and really flavorful.
And the favas provide the texture.
Yes, that creamy pop of the fava beans against the chew of the soaked bread is just fantastic. Or if you want something even simpler to highlight all your hard work, there's fava bean crostini. You just puree the prepared beans with some shallot, garlic, and tarragon into a bright green paste, and you spread that on toasted baguette.
Simple, elegant. I like it. Now let's talk Swiss chard. I feel like chard is the underdog of the leafy greens. It's always overshadowed by kale or spinach.
It shouldn't be. From a gardening perspective, it is superior to spinach in one major way: heat tolerance.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Spinach bolts. It goes to seed the moment it gets hot. Chard just keeps trucking all summer long. It is the cut-and-come-again king.
Meaning you don't kill the plant when you harvest it.
Exactly. You don't pull it up by the roots. You just cut the outer leaves about 3/4 of an inch above the base. The plant's growth point is in the center, so it just keeps pushing out new leaves. You can harvest from the same plant for months.
And in the kitchen, is it just a spinach substitute?
It plays that role really well as long as you remove the tough central ribs, but it has a slightly earthier, more mineral flavor than spinach. The book highlights a Swiss chard cheese tart that sounds fantastic.
I'm listening.
You start by blind baking the pastry.
Blind baking, that means baking the crust empty first, right?
Yes. If you put a wet filling like chard directly onto raw dough, you get the dreaded soggy bottom.
Nobody wants a soggy bottom.
Nobody, so you need to crisp up that crust first. Then the filling is a sautéed mixture of onion and chard combined with Gruyere and feta cheese. You pour a custard over it and bake it until it's set. It's savory, cheesy, and just packed with greens.
And for the colder spring nights.
A gratin of Swiss chard. This is a real warming dish. It pairs the chard with navy or cannellini beans and pancetta.
Everything is better with pancetta.
It really is. The saltiness of the cured pork works so well with that mineral taste of the chard. And then you top the whole thing with breadcrumbs mixed with Parmesan and basil. You bake it until it's bubbly and golden brown. It turns a simple leafy green into serious comfort food.
I'm getting so hungry. But we have to press on. Section 4. We are elevating the boring vegetables. And I'm using air quotes here because I actually love these, but they get a bad rap. Cauliflower and spinach.
Cauliflower has had a real renaissance lately, hasn't it? Cauliflower steaks, cauliflower rice. But this book respects its classic roots while adding some really interesting twists.
First off, harvesting cauliflower. It's tricky because the white head can get sunburnt, can it?
It can. We talked about blanching white asparagus in the dark. Well, cauliflower kind of does this naturally, but you often have to help it along. If the sun hits the developing curds, which are actually undeveloped flower buds, they can turn yellow and a bit tough.
So what do? Put a little hat on it?
Basically, you just snap some of the big outer leaves and fold them over the head to shield it from the direct sun. When you harvest, when the head is about 6 to 8 inches across, you want to cut it so you keep some of those inner leaves attached. They protect the delicate curds on the way to the kitchen.
Got it. Okay, recipe time. Spiced cauliflower soup.
This is not your bland, white, creamy soup. The base flavor here comes from toasted coriander seeds.
Why toast them? Does it make a big difference?
A huge difference. If you use raw ground spices, they can taste a little dusty. When you toast whole coriander seeds in a dry pan, you're releasing the volatile oils. The flavor completely changes from dusty to nutty, citrusy, and floral. You grind that up, add it to the soup, and suddenly you have real complexity.
It sounds so sophisticated.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want the classic. The book does include cauliflower cheese, right?
It does, and it's the ultimate comfort classic. The technique here is important. You boil the cauliflower first, then you broil it with the cheese sauce. You want that contrast between the soft veg and the crispy, bubbling cheese on top. And the sauce isn't just cheese and milk. It includes mustard powder, just a teaspoon or so. It's the secret weapon in cheese sauces. It sharpens the cheese flavor. It cuts through the fat. It somehow makes the cheese taste cheesier, if that makes any sense.
Totally. Now, for the adventurous chef, there's a braised cauliflower with an Indian influence.
This is where we get away from just boiling water. If you overboil cauliflower, it releases hydrogen sulfide gas. That's that rotten egg smell that people hate.
School cafeteria smell.
Exactly. This recipe completely avoids that. Braising here means you cook it in just a little water with spices until all the water evaporates, and then you let it fry in the butter that's left in the pan.
So it steams and then it fries.
Yes. And the spices, dried red chilies, cumin seeds, black mustard seeds, turmeric, they infuse the cauliflower as it cooks. It turns this beautiful golden yellow, and it's packed with heat and fragrance. No rotten egg smell anywhere in sight.
That sounds amazing. Okay, spinach. The other cut and come again hero.
The true workhorse of the garden.
What can we do with spinach besides just, a salad?
Well, there is a creamy spinach and rosemary soup. It uses a potato and onion base for thickness. But the garnish is what really caught my eye.
What is it?
Rosemary flowers.
You can eat rosemary flowers? I had no idea.
You can. If your rosemary bush is blooming, you just pick off those little purple flowers. They have a milder, sweeter rosemary flavor than the piney needles, and they look stunning on top of the soup extra pizzazz, as the book says.
I'm going to look for those. And then we have cream spinach with white wine.
This is a steakhouse classic, but really elevated. You use fresh hot red chilies and garlic. And you reduce white wine in the pan before you add the flour and the milk to make the sauce.
There's that reduction technique again. It keeps popping up.
It's so crucial here. Cream spinach can be really cloying. It's just heavy cream and greens. The white wine adds that necessary acidity. It brightens the whole dish up and makes it feel less heavy on the palate.
And finally, a sweet and savory option.
Catalan-style spinach. This is a very traditional Spanish preparation. You sauté the spinach with dark raisins and pine nuts.
Raisins and spinach, that sounds a little polarized.
It sounds weird to the American palate, I know, but you have to trust the process. The sweetness of the raisins as they rehydrate in the spinach juices, the crunch of the toasted pine nuts, a splash of dry sherry, and some paprika. It's this incredibly complex flavor profile. Sweet, savory, nutty, earthy, all in one bite. It's absolutely delicious.
I am sold. Okay, so we have harvested, we have cooked, we have feasted. But the garden is generous. Sometimes it's too generous. We have a glut.
The inevitable glut. You can only eat so much cauliflower cheese before your family starts to rebel.
So we enter section 5. The art of preservation. Why do we preserve?
Well, two main reasons. One, to stop the waste. It breaks a gardener's heart to throw perfectly good food onto the compost heap. And two, to lock that goodness away for the lean months of winter.
Let's talk about pickle. I've seen this in British pubs. It's neon yellow. It looks almost radioactive.
It is a vibrant yellow, yeah, thanks to the turmeric. Pickle is essentially a mustard pickle made of cauliflower, onions, and green beans. But it's a process. You don't just throw everything in a jar and call it a day.
Walk us through it.
Okay, step 1 is brining. You chop up all the vegetables and you soak them in salt water for a full 24 hours.
Why so long? What does that do?
It's osmosis. You are using the salt to literally draw the water out of the vegetable cells. If you don't do this, when you pickle them, that water will leach out into the jar and dilute your vinegar.
And you get a watery pickle.
You get a watery, soft pickle. By drawing the water out first, the vegetables stay really nice and crunchy.
That's a crucial tip.
After brining, you blanch them quickly in vinegar and water. Then you make the sauce. Flour, sugar, turmeric, and English mustard powder. It creates this thick, spicy yellow paste.
And then you can eat it?
No, patience. It needs to mature in the jar for at least 1 month. The sharp vinegar flavor needs to mellow out, and the spices need time to penetrate the cauliflower.
Okay, set a reminder on your phone. Now, the other technique is preserving in oil. This one makes me nervous. I've heard horror stories about botulism.
And you should be nervous. You should be vigilant. Clostridium botulinum is a bacterium that absolutely thrives in anaerobic environments, meaning environments with no oxygen.
Like a sealed jar of oil.
Exactly. The oil cuts off the oxygen supply. So if you take a raw clove of garlic or a raw pepper, put it in oil, and seal it at room temperature, you are basically building a botulism factory. It has moisture, no oxygen, and low acidity. That is a deadly combination.
So how does the book recommend we do this safely?
The safety step is acidification. You cannot skip this. You must boil the vegetable pieces in a mixture of vinegar, salt, and sugar first.
What does that do?
It lowers the pH of the food. Botulism spores generally cannot grow in acidic environments, specifically below a pH of 4.6. So by cooking the veg in vinegar, you are acidifying the food itself, making it safe.
Okay, so boil in vinegar, then what?
Then, and this is also critical, you have to pat them dry, thoroughly. Oil and water don't mix, and any little water pockets could harbor bacteria. Then you pack them in jars with herbs like fennel seeds or lemon thyme, and you cover them completely with extra virgin olive oil.
And even then, is it shelf stable? Can I put it in the pantry?
The book notes that traditionally this was for long-term storage, but given the risks and the variability of home kitchens, it's best to consider it a short-term preserve. Keep it in the fridge.
Okay.
The oil will solidify in the cold, but that's fine. Just bring it to room temp before you serve it. Better safe than sorry.
Very good advice.
But imagine the payoff. It's November, it's raining, it's dark at 4 p.m., and you pull a jar of oil-preserved grilled peppers or artichokes out of your fridge. It's like a jar of concentrated summer sunlight.
That is a beautiful image. So we've covered the harvest, the science of the store, the cooking, and the preserving. What does this all mean? What's the big takeaway?
If we step back and look at the whole thing, what strikes me about the Kitchen Garden Cookbook is that it flips the hierarchy of the dinner plate.
How so?
Well, usually the protein is the star, right? The chicken or the steak is the hero, and the veg is just kind of there to add color. Here, the vegetables are the starring role.
They aren't just the support act.
Exactly. And even if you don't have a garden, even if you live in a high-rise apartment, you can still apply this philosophy. Go to the farmer's market, buy what is in season right now, and apply that eat immediately rule. Don't buy peas on Saturday to eat on Thursday. Eat them Saturday night. Respect the ingredient.
It changes the way you shop and the way you cook. It makes you so much more mindful.
It connects you to the cycle. From the peace of that evening water to the excitement of seeing the first seedling poke through the soil, all the way to the kitchen table.
And I want to leave you with a thought that the book kind of hints at. It talks about summer's swan song leading into the taming of the plot in winter.
The cycle of the year?
Right. But think about how our cooking changes with that time. We go from these fresh, raw, instant salads in spring, where we are eating things that were literally alive an hour ago, to these slow, preserved, potted pickles in winter that we made months and months ago. It makes me wonder, how does changing how we cook actually change our perception of time passing? Are we just eating food, or are we actually consuming the seasons themselves?
That is a delicious thought to chew on. We are metabolizing time.
Something to mull over while you're eating your 6-inch asparagus spears. Thanks for diving in with us.
Happy gardening.
See you next time.